When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Prado of Man-Made Survival. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel watching this video. I really do appreciate it because today what we're going to be doing is that we're going to continue this talk about preparedness because we are getting prepared for the Great Reset. All right, so this is the continuation of these series of videos that I've been doing. So if you have not watched the previous videos, I really encourage you to do so because there's a lot of information packed in all that series. Okay, and this is not the end of it. Actually, I have one or two more to go along with this series. And the reason that this series became so long is because we're not only talking about the Great Reset and what they're planning on doing, but also I'm telling you how to prepare for it, everything that they've said that they're going to change or that they're going to reset. Okay, because our life is going to be completely different in the next 10 to 20 years. So we have to take steps right now in order for us to be prepared for when that actually happens or in the process of happening. Because what they want to do is that they want to turn the United States from being a first world country into a third world country. And we're seeing the process being, implemented right now. So we're going to go we're going to make the transition. And a lot of Americans, millions of Americans are going to go through it here in the next few months. Okay, the reports have come out saying that people are stealing food from the grocery stores because they have nothing to eat. All right, so in my opinion, okay, is that I believe it was something like 39 million people. In my humble opinion, literally by this spring coming up, there should be 39 million more farmers coming up. The reason being is because if you are hurting so much financially that you cannot even feed your family, you are already, okay, being pushed to the point where you have to steal food from the grocery stores. What's coming along, if you don't get prepared for it, then you're going to be in a worse shape. And I do understand that, these people who are stealing food, who are going to those extremes to go ahead and get what they need because they don't have money, all right? What they're getting is staples like rice, beans, they're getting some meat, they're getting formula for their children. I understand that right now they don't have the financial means to do it, but there are government programs that are still available. And if they can get in one of those, or they can find a job where they can finally get back in their feet, then from that point on, they should become new preppers. Okay, that's the whole purpose of this entire channel. This is the purpose of what we're doing, because we are seeing things that we never thought we were going to see, especially in America. And 2020 has really taught us that it doesn't really matter how rich a country is, it can be brought to its knees in just a couple of months. Okay, and really the suffering that we're seeing right now, which could be a lot greater here in the next 2 weeks, we have not seen it being, to where it could be because of all the government programs, because of all these safety nets, because of all these measures that have been put in place that have pretty much kicked the can down the road to the eventuality to where there's going to be millions of Americans being evicted from their homes. Okay, if there is no stimulus, if there's no government intervention, if I'm not mistaken, in some places the day after Christmas, which would be December 26th, they're going to become homeless. Okay, so that is the purpose of all of this, because the Great Reset, the people from the World Economic Forum have said that in 10 years, from 10 to 20 years, you won't own anything. You will not have any privacy. Okay, and everything will be for free as long as you're in the system. If you want to opt out of the system, the way that they describe you as being is going to be you being extremely poor, living as if you were in the 1800s. So that is the reason why we have to take the steps right now for us to be fully prepared for when that happens. They're saying that in the next 10 years, the United States will no longer be a first world nation. The only way that they can do that is by collapsing the United States economically, because we are just getting a taste right now of that. Okay, so that is the reason why I want to talk about this. Now, in the first videos, I talked about alliance, food, water, and medicine. In this video, I'm going to be talking about tactical, communications, and energy. The reason that I'm doing the three altogether is because I'd rather give you all this information packed in one video than split it up, because then, you know, you can find it in one spot. And there's people who have been waiting for this information to come out. And since I can only release a video every 2 to 3 days, because, you know, I do work and I'm doing this on my extra time, and I'm making time aside to bring you this information. So that is the reason why. So I want to make it into one video so we can learn together, so we can grow together as a community, because I do want to make this community grow. And I want it to be so successful that it will become worldwide. Okay, I want to take this meme survival community of preppers to lengths that we have never seen before, right? So we can only do it with your help. So I really would appreciate it if you can share this information with your friends and family throughout all your social media. Okay, we're on most of the social media that's out there that I've known about. We're out there, and right now we have today I have signed this channel up for Rumble. So if you're in rumble.com, I encourage you to go on there, like the video, share the video, rumble the video, whatever it's called, and help us grow through that channel now. Okay, we don't have any subscribers on there. You know, this we're gonna be uploading this series, so it's gonna be the very first videos coming through in that channel. But I encourage you to go on there and help us out by subscribing. All right, so I want to recap real quick on the steps that I've taken, that I've talked about in the previous videos, okay? Because this is going to be kind of a refresher, and I'm going to give you a quick explanation why I teach it the way that I do, okay? So the first thing is alliance. The first thing that I talk about was alliance. The reason being is because in the prepper community, we are very divided. We are very selfish. You know, if you go to any channel other than this one, you will find out and you will see that they always say that you only have to take care of you and the people who are sitting at your kitchen table, which more than likely would just be your spouse and your children. Anyone outside of that, including family members, will be turned away in a time of crisis because they did not help you prepare. Okay, I don't teach that, not at all. The reason being is because you're gonna be able to be better prepared as an alliance, whether that is family and friends, acquaintances, whatever it is. You're the ones gonna draw the line. The point is that you're gonna be able to cover a lot more things with a group of people as if you were doing it by yourself with your spouse and your children. Your probability of survival is gonna increase dramatically. So the reason you need to take care of the alliance first. You need to understand who's going to be with you, or who could potentially come to you at a time of crisis, is because then you can actually make a plan on how much food you need, how much water you need, how much medical, understanding you need, or kits, stitches, stuff like that. How many guns, bullets, night vision goggles, how many ham radios, how much energy you really need to have in your bug allocation, survival training, who's gonna be responsible for that, and who's gonna be teaching the entire group, bug out bags, bug out vehicles, bug allocation, hygiene, and clothing. So all of those 13 things, which really could be 14, but all those 13 things, when you put them together, that will make you be a well-rounded prepper. And it doesn't matter what happens, you're gonna be okay, or you're gonna be better off than anyone else. So if you go through the route, all right, of taking care of your alliance first, understanding who's gonna be with you, you gotta know exactly what you're gonna need in each and every one of those categories. That's why it's important for you to start off there. So the way that I teach it very quickly, all right, I encourage you to go back and look at the video, because it's gonna go into greater detail than what I'm gonna do it now, is that first you start with your house, with the people sitting at your kitchen table, which more than likely is gonna be you, your spouse, and your children. And then you look at your spouse, and then you extend the family tree as far as you wanna take it. And then you look at yourself with your family tree, and you extend it as far as you wanna take it. You get the responsible adults, you bring them together, you present them with the opportunity to prep with you, all right, and the reasons why. And 2020 will be the best example you could ever have. Also, 2021 is very promising to be even worse than 2020 was, okay? So you can look into the future and say, this is what's going on. No conspiracy theories, no nothing. You can present them with articles, with videos, with facts, factual things that have been happening this entire year. So that's why it's important for you to do that. And then you give them the opportunity. If they accept it, then now you have a team of preppers that, or family members or friends who are going to be preparing with you. And then everybody gets assigned an individual thing from this category that I just read to you, these 13 things. And then it'll be cheaper and easier for everybody to have their own thing to prepare for, because once you come together, then all that is going to be taken care of. Right? So I go into greater detail about how to get workers, what to do with children, disabled people, stuff like that. So I encourage you to go back and watch it. Now, food. Food is very important, because in the prepper community, all we're taught is that you have to get storable food and that's it. Okay? If you want to have a garden, that's an option, but you don't have to. That's what they say. I'm completely the opposite. What I'm teaching you here, right, very quickly again, is that your stored food will only be used if you have crop failure, meaning that as soon as something bad happens, you have to go into your land and you have to start putting a garden down, okay? So the person who would be responsible for food would have to understand everything there is to know on how to grow a garden, right? How to have farm animals, how to, or how much food everybody would need, the dietary things necessary for everyone, what tools they're going to need, not just for the kitchen, but also for canning and for the animals, for the farm and everything. They're going to be responsible for that, okay? So I gave you 13 things. Let's say you have 26 families that will come together. You can split that responsibility into the sections that I've just said, or, for food, what can take care of the garden, what can take care of the animals, and there'll be easier load on that person. So all of this has a lot of things going on in just in one section, that the more people you have, the merrier, okay? But one person or one family can take care of each individual one. All right, so once that person understands, they're going to be able to have a garden. If something happens, they use the garden, they use the farm animals, they do the best they can to grow the crops, to preserve the crops, and feed the entire alliance. If for whatever reason there is crop failure, then you fall back into your preps, into what you stored, and that'll take you for the next cycle. The reason you need 2 years worth of food is because you want to give yourself a chance to at least have 2 cycles of the weather to where it's favorable to the condition where you are, because there's different parts of the country. Up north, they get snow, heavy snow, and it's very difficult to grow things. As opposed to if you're in Florida, you can grow things year round. So it depends on where you are. That's how that person is going to be responsible to understand your geographical location, and they'll be better off to understand what you actually need. All right. So that's the quick rundown. Water is very important as well. And just quickly, you're going to have to store water in water bottle. Rain catchment system, again, you have to understand that you have to see if it's legal in your state, because some states it's illegal to collect rainwater. Pond, that's one way. And also you have to check whether or not it's legal for you to have a pond in your property, because again, that would be another way to catch the rain. Your property must have, this is a 100% must have, water running through it 24/7, 365. Okay, so you have to have a creek, a stream, a river, an ocean, whatever it is. You have to have a body of water running through your property at all times, because if you don't, okay, you are in risk of having to migrate into an area that you don't know or you don't understand. The moment you stop drinking, you run out of water for you and however many people is going to be in your alliance. So that's why it's important to secure water in every way you possibly can. Okay, you can never prep too much. And we've had, since the last financial crisis, we had 12 years. Since the last terrorist attack in the United States, we've had 19 years. So there's plenty of time to prepare. And even if nothing happens in your lifetime, that all these preps, all this knowledge, all this culture of preppers can be passed on to the next generation, because somewhere between there, they're gonna have to use it. All right. The next thing is medical. It's important to understand that we're talking about a crops hit the fan scenario. I'm not talking about you replace modern medicine completely. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm a believer in modern medicine because many of my family members have been saved through the, from modern medicine, surgeries, the technology that we have right now. I have family members who have survived. So that is the reason why I'm a big believer in the technology that's in the medical field right now. But what we're talking about is a scenario where, there's no doctors, there's no hospitals. And even if there was, like in Venezuela, it's too expensive to get treatment, or the hospitals are so broke that they cannot even afford to have a sanitized operating room. Okay, that's the type of scenario we're talking about here. So with medical, you have to understand how to use a medical kit completely, a trauma kit, which would include gunshots. That would be the main focus, because if you have people coming through your area trying to take your things and you get into a gunfight, if anybody in your group gets shot, you're gonna have to know how to plug that gunshot wound, how to address it, and how to have that person who got shot survive. Okay, and you're gonna have to have all the medical things in place. And not only that, and that person would have to understand how to grow a medical garden, all right, in substitution of pharmaceuticals that in the scenario that I described earlier would not be available, all right? China did say that that would be one of their trump cards against, Trump, no pun intended, if this trade war got out of hand, that they could say that they were not going to give us pharmaceuticals anymore because 90% of our pharmaceuticals come from China. So that would put millions of Americans into a bad position very, very quickly. All right, so that's why it's important for you to understand any illnesses in your family and how to address them naturally. Now, we're going to get into what this podcast is about, even though we're already about 18 minutes in. That was a quick rundown because those videos have lasted an hour. So this was very quickly, so I encourage you to go back and watch. Now, tactical, okay? Tactical has very many aspects to it. That's why it's important for the one person who's going to take care of it to understand everything that they need to understand about tactical. That includes, guns, ammunition, not communication, excuse me, how to make a plan, security with cameras and everything like that. They're going to have to be responsible for all of that. Okay, and that person who's responsible for it, he's going to also be responsible to teach everyone in the group how to handle a gun, all right? Help them be better at shooting, because you want to be, if something wants to happen to where you actually get into a firefight or, a gunfight in your property, defending your property and everything that's in it and everyone that's in it, not only do you want to fight and deter the aggressors, but you want to come out of it alive, because there's no point into getting into a fight, defending your property, but every time that happens, 2 or 3 members of the family die. You want to have a solid plan of your property, on checkpoints, on who's going to be, going around the perimeter 24/7. I'm not a believer in sitting on your couch and just waiting for somebody to try to breach your perimeter or knocking on your door asking for stuff. If that happens, then, you have way too many open areas or you have a lot of holes in your security plan. That person is also responsible for coming up with a plan on what weapons each person is going to use, all right? Because you have 4 different type of weapons that you can use, all right? The first one is handgun, the next one is shotgun, hunting rifle, and AR-15, all right? And depending on the age of the people who are in your group is which one they get. For example, grandpa is not going to be able to go out there with his AR-15 and, and dodge bullets and come out on top. What he would be able to do is be able to snipe, or he could be inside the house, because if everybody that's out there with the AR-15 gets taken out and they make their way into the house, then he can just start blasting people with a shotgun, okay? So you have to make sure, or you have to understand that each weapon would have its own training, but not only that, how do you where to use it, in what tactical advantage to use it. Okay, so if you have grandpa with a sniper rifle and he's good at hunting, then guess what? Grandpa just took the position of being the sniper of the house. Okay, because now with the technology that we have, with the weapons that we have, being able to shoot someone at 100 yards, 200 yards, or even beyond that is going to be crucial, especially if you can see them coming from a long distance. All right, so make sure that the person who is in charge of security understands that. All right, now also, this also includes security cameras and night vision goggles, because night vision goggles will give you the advantage of being able to deter an attack at night, because people who know what they're doing, they're going to attack you at night. So really your defenses must be heightened when the sun comes down, okay? Especially if you live in an area where you know there's a lot of veterans, or any area that would be hostile, that has a lot of gangsters. They understand that nighttime is when they work. All right, so that's why it's important for you to understand all of that, or the person who is in charge of security. So night vision goggles is very important. If you're an American citizen and you can afford it, then you should go ahead and buy a pair. Not only just one pair for you, but one pair for every adult who's going to be handling a gun, especially doing security at night. All right, make sure you understand that. Security cameras are important for the reason being that if your system is still working, if we don't get hit with an EMP or something like that, if your system's still working and you see that there's aggression coming towards you and you're defending your property, that's going to be a good way to document what's going to happen or what's going down. If for whatever reason we have a period of time where crap hits the fan, there's no government, there's no police, but then somehow, for whatever reason, however long it takes, government does come back up, and then, you know, they start investigating all the deaths that happen, and you just happen to be in the path of the justice system, and they say, you know, we know that you killed so-and-so when they were coming through your property, and we're gonna arrest you. But then you can be like, all right, but here's my evidence that they were the aggressors. I was protecting my property. All right, they make threats that if I didn't give them something, that they were just gonna come kill everybody and take it all. So I had to do what I had to do in a time where there was lawlessness. That's why it's important for you to have security cameras. It's not for you to sit back, relax on your couch, and then just, you know, get the alert that there's somebody in your property. When that happens, it's already too late. Another aspect, or another thing that you can look into, if you cannot afford night vision goggles, or you are not a U.S. citizen, because only U.S. citizen can actually buy the night vision goggles, is that you can get flares. You can do some type of system that is going to illuminate your entire area, your entire property, especially the areas where people may be coming from, and that's how you're gonna be able to see at night. Okay, and you remember, you're only gonna use that if there is somebody breaching your house or your property. You don't want to use it 24/7, because now you're giving intel to the person who would potentially come into your house and do some harm. All right, so you have to understand all those aspects. Now I'm gonna move into communications. Communications is not very difficult to understand. You know, it's not gonna take me very long to go through it, because really what you need is go to the ARRL.org, or go to a local ham radio club, or take some type of class that is going to teach you how to use the systems. You know, they're going to teach you what a CB radio is. They're going to teach you what a BHF and HUF frequencies and all this stuff is. All right, they're going to teach you all that. And not only that, they're going to teach you that you're going to have to be licensed in order for you to use communications. Now, one person can take care of that. Excuse me. And one person going to take care of that, and then they're going to be able to teach someone else how to use the system. All right. So again, that's not very difficult. So you're going to need a ham radio. The reason you're going to need it is because if something happens in the United States, you're going to have to get intel from outside of the United States, and having the right system, the right antennas, the right power output It's going to help you communicate with people outside the United States, and you're going to get intel on what to do. All right, so let's move on to the next thing, which is something that people have been waiting for. So I do apologize that this has taken a couple of weeks, but you know, this information is important, and now that I'm getting to it, please share with your friends and family. The next thing is energy. And energy is also important and easy to understand, okay? Because one of the scenarios that we can think, or actually two, is that we can get hit with an EMP or we can get hit with a cyber attack. And here in the past few days, in the past few hours really, we have had a lot of information come out that, you know, there's have been hacks in the Pentagon, there's have been hacks in the voting system, there's been hacks going on everywhere in the Treasury Department. That's the one I'm thinking of. And, you know, there's hacks going 24/7. Now, a cyber attack can take off the grid, but it will still allow transportation to come through, all right? It would be more difficult for companies to process food and put it in the trucks and send it out, but it can still be done, you know, if they really wanted to. And people more than likely are going to be working very hard to bring back the grid from a cyber attack. You know, the government is going to bring out their best hackers or whatever you call them, and they're going to bring back the grid, and then everything's going to go back to normal, quote unquote. Of course, it could take several days, several weeks, maybe even several months, depending on how sophisticated the attack was. But the point is that there is a way to come back from that. Now, in EMP, as far as we understand EMPs right now and how the technology is advancing in EMP weapons, it is known that the weapons are becoming even more powerful than what they used to be even 5 years ago. All right, and if an EMP bomb from 5 years ago could take out the grid permanently, okay, with taking out cars and everything like that, the weapons that they're creating now could completely devastate everything. Because, you know, there's people who do say that if there is an EMP, there's a possibility that smaller circuits do not get fried, that maybe some parts of the grid will not get fried because of the range or the capacity or the extent of how big the bomb is would actually, you know, destroy this grid. With the bombs that they're doing now, which they are calling them super EMP weapons, it could completely wipe the entire country. And not just that, parts of Canada and parts of Mexico. Depending on how high in altitude they actually detonate the EMP weapon. So they might do one big one that most of the grid all throughout the country gets knocked out, or they can do several to make sure that everything gets turned off. All right, so energy is very important, because I have done the report here and I've shown it to you that if an EMP was to happen in the United States, 200 million people would die. All right, and I showed you everything about it, you know, the medical side of this, the dangerous people rioting and looting and being desperate for goods and everything like that, how that would happen. And you know, the report from the government did come out and say that from the EMP Commission did say that if an EMP happened within 24 months, over 90% of the country would perish. And this is a country of 320 million people. So 90% of that being gone, the remaining people would be very vulnerable for any other attack from any outside country that would just come in and conquer the country. Okay, so energy is important. Now there's two aspects to energy. One of them is gasoline based, and the other one is solar based. All right, both have the pros, both have the cons. With gasoline, you can actually it's a little bit more reliable, but the bad thing about it is that if gas is scarce to where it's very difficult to get, or it's too expensive to even buy, then your generator does not work at all. There are kits out there where you can actually have like a tri-fuel type of system, where even if you don't have gasoline, you can use propane or any other fuel. But it could potentially be that those become so expensive that you cannot use them as well. Okay, so for a prepper, for you and me, what we want is we want a system that is renewable energy. That's what we need. That's what we want. And the technology that they're coming up with is being better, or is increasing in its efficiency in the solar panels and all that system. Because when it first started out, it was really crappy. It was really bad. But now with the technology advancing and what they're trying to push the world to be, self renewable with renewable energy, the technology is getting better, and these type of systems are becoming more accessible. Now, both of those will cost a lot of money. So we can go in two directions with this, whether it's gas or energy. It can go through the very expensive part of this, or we can go through the I don't have enough money, but once I save enough money, I will buy a system, but I want to make sure that I have the right system, right? So that's what I'm going to be talking about right now, because that was one of the questions in the comment section, and I really appreciate that question. But I hope I addressed the question here, and if I didn't, please let me know. All right, so first we're gonna go with gas, but we're gonna go with the route of I don't have enough money. The reason being is because if you have money, then you just buy as many as you want, whenever you want, and it won't even tickle your wallet, right? That's what I mean by you have money. When you don't have enough money, or you don't have much to spend just like that, then you want to look at these things, and you want to make sure that it's right for you. Now we're gonna start with gasoline. All right, so gas can be stored for 3 to 6 months, okay, before it goes bad. Before gasoline can no longer be used, it has been degraded enough to where even if you try to use it in your system, it can either A, crap out your system, or B, just won't work at all. And that's 3 to 6 months. You go to the pump, you pump it, and you put it up in your barn, shed, or whatever it is that you have it in. And then 3 to 6 months later, it's out. Now, there is a product out there called a stabilizer, where it could actually make the gas last from 1 to 3 years, which to me, that's excellent. When I found that information when I was doing this, or doing the research for this podcast, making the gas last 1 to 3 years is a very good investment with getting the stabilizers, because now when your system is out and we can see that we're really close to a war, we're really close to some type of disaster, we can go get fresh gas and then go put the stabilizers on there, and that gas will last us anywhere between 1 to 3 years. And if anything happens, because we're seeing what's going on, I'm giving you the up-to-date news, and we're seeing that we're really close to war right now. You go fill up all your gas tanks as much as you can, as much as you can afford. You add the stabilizers, and it's gonna sit there for 1 year to 3 years, right, instead of 3 to 6 months. So that's a plus on that side. But that is also something you have to consider when making your purchase. Your generator must have an inverter in it, because if it doesn't have an inverter, you run the risk of damaging your systems, or it might not even have the right plugs for what you need. Because for a generator, you really have to understand, you really have to think in your mind, what do I really need power? Because you buying a system that is only going to be small enough or big enough to take care of the essentials in your house. For a regular household, would actually just be the refrigerator, because that's where you keep all your food. All right, if the power goes out and you have no generator to run your refrigerator, then all that food is going to go bad, and you don't want to do that. And the stove, because you're gonna have to cook, your stuff somewhere. If you don't have, something already set up outside where you can cook over a campfire or whatever it is, then you're gonna use your stove, or you're even gonna use a microwave. The point is that you're gonna have to have a system that can handle both, or you're gonna have to find two separate systems that's gonna power only the stove, or only the refrigerator. So this is how you do the math on this, okay? The math on this is amps times voltage equals watts. And all that information is on the product that you buy. If you're looking in your refrigerator in the back or somewhere, it's going to tell you that information, how many amps, how much voltage, and how many watts. The same thing goes for any type of electronic that has a battery, or can be plugged into the wall. It'll give you that information. Now, As an example, a fridge that has 6 amps that runs at 115 volts will have a 690 running watts. All right, that would be the math. So again, 6 amps at 115 volts equals 190 running watts. So once you do the math, you have to look at what type of generator you're going to get. And of course, you don't want to get exactly what you need. You want to go above that. Okay, there's several systems out there, and the best that's out there is the Yamaha. But you know, it's like any other car or any other thing that people like. They like different brands. They have different experience, so they have different systems. What I'm telling you is what you need to look for. So when you find the right one that's right for you, then you can compare with this and say, okay, this is what I need. Right? A stove will be able to run on a generator rated at 5,000 to 7,000 watts. So that's very important that you pay attention to that. It all depends on what kind of stove you have, or microwave, whatever the case may be. Another thing you have to look at is noise. If you have a generator that is very loud, it's going to be very difficult for you to even hide it from your neighbors, hide it from the police, hide it from the military, whoever it is, because if you're the only one that has power because your generator keeps on running night after night, because you stored enough gas to have that for a long period of time, and you have enough money or resources to restock up on that gas, then you're going to make yourself a target, because people will think that if you have power, what else do you have? Okay, so make sure that you get a system that is not so noisy. And that is one of the problems, one of the cons with gas generators. The next thing is fuel. The generator is going to have to be a system that can not only be gas, but it can also be different types of fuels, because if you cannot afford gas, you run out of it, there's scarcity of it, whatever the case may be, you're going to be able to substitute that with another one that might be more available, cheaper to get, and you're still going to be able to run your generator. And now the next one is maintenance. Maintenance is really easy. It's really easy to understand, but you have to read the manual, because it all depends on its system. You're going to have to make sure that it has enough oil, and that it has, if the gas is going to sit in there, if you're going to put it up, that you drain all the gas out of it, and that you have replacement, little tubes and stuff like that. Because what has happened to me personally with weed eaters is that when they sit, in the garage for a long time, or they sit in the shed for a long time, the cable will actually rot out, the little tube, and then I have to replace it, and then it runs again. But the point is that if gas sits there for a long period of time without, moving, it will rot it out. So you have to pay attention to all those little details. And lastly is price. As I mentioned a minute ago, if you have enough money, then you need to buy one of the systems that you find, okay, that's gonna run a stove by itself, that's gonna run a refrigerator by itself, and then it's gonna run all the little items that you need to recharge, like cell phones, flashlights, headlamps, laptops, whatever it is. Then you're gonna have to have a system individually for that. If you have enough money, if you don't have enough money, I would recommend that you get one and you use it wisely, or try to get two, because it's gonna be easier for you to run everything smoothly in your house. Now, of course, if you have money, there are systems out there that are big enough to mimic the grid in your house. There's a power outage, you just flip a switch, and then your house runs as normal. TV, air conditioning, shower, water heater, washing machine, everything. What we're talking about here is a system where you don't have a lot of money for that. Okay, if you have the money for it, then God bless you, and one of those systems will be best for you. But if you don't have something that can be that expensive, then going with a portable generator would be your next bet. All right, so now we're gonna move into solar, and solar is a little easier to understand. The reason being is because it's pretty straightforward, even though you want to look at the same aspects of all of this. All right, so with solar, the cons of it is that you're gonna have to have enough batteries to charge up in order for you to be able to consume that at night. All right, whatever it is. The same principle of understanding exactly what you need to power will come into play, but you can have a system that's big enough to where it's going to power everything in your house. Kind of like the kind of like the same as the big gas generator. You can get the same solar. Okay, Elon Musk has come out with a solar roof. There's companies out there that will put a whole system in your roof that you can run your house mostly on solar power. But the point is that even though the systems are available, right, the con of it is that you're gonna have to spend a lot of money on batteries, and if you don't have a very sunny day, those batteries will take a lot longer to charge up, right? And the generator itself, right? If you just get the generator, you cannot get an extra battery. Just the generator itself, it can take anywhere between 8 to 12 hours to come to a full charge. All right, so that's why it's important for you to know exactly what you need to charge up, because you're gonna go from my TV is essential, my video games are essential, to I need to make sure my refrigerator is running. So it's important that you think about that. So as a general rule, the generator should be around 2 times the size of the inverter's continuous output. For example, a 4,000 watt inverter should be paired with an 8,000 watt generator. AKW would make sense as minimum generator size to power the load and have enough power to charge the battery banks as well. You're going to have enough batteries to power you through the night. All right. So another thing about this that you have to consider is the price. Solar systems are a lot more expensive. Okay. If you come out to a company and you say you want a system big enough to where it's going to power your entire house, there are several things that you have to consider on that. All right. One is the price, as I mentioned, because you can pay up front anywhere between $15,000 and $30,000. Yeah, of course, they have payment plans, but the point is that that's how expensive it can get very fast. If you have the money for it, then, again, God bless you and go on your way. Go ahead and get it. But once you do make the step of getting a system that big, you have to understand that I'm not 100% sure if it's legally or not, but they connect that system to the grid. That is what we saw in California when they were having power outages. Even though they have solar power running through their house, since it was connected to the grid, once the grid went out, their system went out, because any excess power has to go back into the grid. But once that was cut off, since they didn't have any batteries and a separate system, to support the house, then once that grid was cut off, so was the solar power. So if you go through a company, you have to ask them that you're gonna have to have the ability to power your house without using the grid. Okay, they might tell you if they can or not, whether it's legal or not, and they're gonna give you all the other extra costs that was gonna come along with it, because in order for you to be able to do that, you're gonna have to have enough batteries in your house in order to power your house. And again, they will take priority, or you're gonna have to take priority into what's gonna be essential. All right, so pay attention to that very closely. The generator usually already comes with the inverter in it, so that's not a big deal. The math is exactly the same. And the good thing about these systems is that they do not make any noise whatsoever. So it's very important that happens, or not that happens, but it's very important that you pay attention to that. And, that's one of the pros of a solar generator system. And maintenance is almost non-existent. You have to, the lithium battery in the system is eventually going to run out. I'm not 100% sure. I guess it depends on which system you get, whether or not you can swap out the battery. But the point is that the only maintenance on it is that you stay within the recommended, charge, because, for example, cell phones, they tell you to keep your charge in your battery between 40 and 80% to extend the life of your battery. If you let it get to 0 all the time, or if you have it at 100%, while you sleep, and then it doesn't shut off and it continues to power that battery all throughout the night until you unplug it when you wake up, that's going to consume the battery life. That is exactly the same thing that can happen here. So the technology has come out a long way, but you still have to make sure that the system you decide to get, it comes with a good enough battery to where even if it's charged 100% all the time, it's not going to deteriorate quicker than it would be, as opposed, it would be if it just ran normal. Sorry, I got tongue twisted right there for a second. I got different thoughts crossing my mind. But anyways, now, as far as specific brand goes, I personally like Gold Zero. Okay, I like the way it looks. I like what it does. But you may have a better experience or different experience with different company, a different battery that you like. That's totally fine. But you have to look into what you actually need and how much it's going to be. Solar power systems tend to be way more expensive than gas power systems. So hopefully here in the future, when they do decide to make everything solar powered, it's going to be cheaper and more accessible to get, and you can have a full system in your home that is not going to cost an arm and a leg. All right. So that is pretty much it for this podcast with what I'm been talking about, with the things that you need to prepare, the categories, what everybody's responsibility is going to be, because as I mentioned, it's easier for a group of people to prepare than just one person or one family. So everybody has to understand how much they can get, what they need, all the energy needs, all the communication needs, all the security needs. It's going to be easier for people to prepare in a way that is going to help an entire group rather than just themselves. All right. Make sure you share this information with your friends and family, because this information is potentially life-saving. What I'm teaching you here is something that you are not hearing anywhere else. In the prepper community, we teach to be selfish. We don't teach hardcore facts because, a lot of it is based on opinion and experience. But what I want to do here is I want it to be solid in principle, solid in scientific method. It has to be concrete to where it doesn't matter who starts prepping from zero, they're all going to take the same path because it's the right way to go. Okay, for example, like when you go to school, you're always going to know, and it's pretty much a law, that 2 + 2 is going to be 4. All right, the law of gravity. It doesn't matter how high you try to jump, you're always going to go to the ground. So that is exactly what I want to build with this community of preppers, where we have hardcore, very well established facts about prepping and where people can start and the reasons why they can do this. All right, that way they can no longer make fun of us for prepping. We have a solid foundation. We have the scientific evidence on why we're doing it and why it should be the way that I'm teaching it to you. All right, so again, please share this information with your friends and family. I want to remind you that I do have a store, ManSurvivalStore.com. That store helps me stay on the air. I am cash flowing all of this on my own, and I would really appreciate it if you can help me out by making a purchase, which of course is going to help you out in the long run. Whenever you need something, when crap hits the fan, you're going to have what you need, and you can find all those things in my store, ManSurvivalStore.com. And also, I want to remind you that I'm giving a book away for free. It's absolutely free, but I do want to let you know that all we need your help is with shipping. The book retails for $24.99, and the shipping is only $9.99. So you are getting it for free. That book is easy to read. All right, I've had great reviews on it, and it could be a perfect gift, especially to this holiday season, or even for a birthday present, or if you're trying to convince someone to prepare, that could be their very first prepper book, and it didn't cost you anything. So again, my name is Jose Prado, and remember, always ready.
The Man-Made Survival Show.